In some traditions, there's this notion that these beings were more in harmony with us, or we were more in harmony with them in the past. And we've essentially gone astray as a species. The way that we've treated the earth and nature has kind of coincided with how we've treated them because they're one and the same. Have you received any messages from your end? Is it like they want us to go back to how we were, or is this a completely new way?
I think it's a completely new way. It's like a new evolution of both of us together. I really like cringe when people say, I wish we could just go back to the old ways. But I'm like, the old ways were like horrible. People were awful to each other and they're no better now. Maybe they're more present to people in the world now because of just the dire state of things. And they really want something to change for the better for all of us because we're all here together. Just acknowledge the earth and all that we have is a living entity and respect it because so many people don't at all.
Have you noticed? I assume you've had things like synchronicities.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's like my life story. I call them synchronicity storms because I know I'm either doing like I'm on the right path when all of these things just continuously avalanche within my life. And it can be like really minor little things. And I need to start keeping a journal, honestly. I do that occasionally with dreams and things, but I need a synchronicity journal because sometimes it is just so intense and so pointed, and all I can do is just go with it. So
Yeah. I don't know about you, but for me, I've noticed when I am living and acting in more of that radically transparent way, especially around these topics, it usually manifests in conversations that I'm having with people
Mhm,
where I experience that interconnectedness in a
mhm,
way that I wouldn't normally if I'm holding things back or being careful about what I say.
mhm.
When that happens, I tend to have synchronicity storms like after that. Have you noticed that as well?
Yes, absolutely. I do experience that. Um, yeah, I can't really explain it further than that, but it happens. And you have to pay attention to it to an extent. Because sometimes I think people can just have these happening and they just overlook it because I do think they are just signs that you are traveling that right path that you are supposed to be on right now and you're doing good. And I think some people just overlook it and don't even think about it happening when it's happening. And because they can be easy to overlook too. Like they can just be the most minor little thing that nobody would second, like nobody would take a second glance at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I don't even when people say like you're following the right path, I don't even think it's something that's like a predestination type thing. It's more like, in my opinion, because of the way you're acting and why and being and why these tend to arise around that time, it's almost like you are accessing
mhm.
more of reality that
Yeah.
is already laid out before you, and it literally is where you put your awareness. So it's like if you are being aware to more of reality, then you're picking up on everything, including patterns that exist before you. It's like all of the synchronicities are already there outside space-time, just around us,
Hmm.
and
It
we
is.
can't see them when the veil is over us and we're kind of stuck in this illusion. We
Yeah.
just see this very limited, kind of linear, boring structure to life sometimes.
Yeah. Um, you said patterns, and that immediately made me think like pattern recognition. That is a thing that like I have had my whole life based on just like different experiences that I've had. So I can like kind of peg a person, like possibly like how I think a situation is going to go down. And it's like very much based on pattern recognition and different things I've experienced before. And I think
Mhm.
synchronicities are pretty similar to that. So like when something starts happening, that's when suddenly you start like realizing, oh, all of these other pieces around it are like also forming that pattern. And it's just
It's
like a
true.
big giant quilt. Like reality is like a big blanket full
Yeah.
of threads and now I'm getting all these visuals in my head of like beautiful quilt pieces and threads and loops, and
Yeah.
it's probably all there for you. You just have to be open and okay with like recognizing the patterns.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I told you earlier, I'm red green colorblind. So for
Yeah.
me, it's like I know the colors are there. I'm
Mhm.
just not seeing them. It's just other people are, they exist, but I'm not seeing them. So yeah.
There's ways to notice patterns too, not just colors. So
Yeah. Yeah. Have you noticed changes in yourself since these experiences? I assume there's a point where they ramped up for you.
um so I've always been a fairly weird kid. Even my mom called me the weird kid. I don't know if there was, well, I take that back. There was I think that Deer Man, when I first experienced that dream, it kind of solidified like, okay, this is real and this is happening in my life, and like just this kind of stuff happens to me and just accept it. Don't hide these stories anymore. If you're open about them with the right people, they will understand. So I definitely think that he was like a catalyst for just moving forward, especially with like my artwork and putting that out there, like um, drawing these different beings and creatures. I wouldn't always draw things like that. I would doodle things like that, but I never took it like as serious artwork, I guess, because when you're an artist, there's like a group of elitist people who want to say like certain things aren't like real art, but that's a whole other topic altogether. But I just kind of threw that away and stopped caring about what other elitists thought about the art world. And I was like, I'm just literally going to make exactly the work that I want to make. And if it's dorky and people think it's silly, like I don't even care, because I am fulfilled when I make these things. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. So you said that these beings, so it seems like for a lot of them, you kind of put in this fae or fairy bucket. Is that accurate?
I mean, I just use the term fairy because I see, um for me it's an umbrella term, but I
Yeah.
consider like all kinds of different things like under that. And just the word that I choose to use is fae usually. And um it's just the other crowd of entities. They could be from all over. I don't even know. Like, uh, yeah, I don't know. It's just an easy word for me to use to like
Yeah.
have people kind of know what I'm talking about in a way. So,
No, and I believe that even the term fairy was used in that way back in the day
mm,
in parts of Europe, that it was the term for paranormal.
it is,
Um,
yeah. It's just the unseen crowd. Like it is just me. It just means like the unseen ones, and um, many things fall under that category. So
hmm.
they're not all little ladies with beautiful wings. Like that's surely like a type of entity that people do experience, but there is just so much more. And I think that's part of why like I have really been focusing on that as my my artwork over the past several years, because I genuinely think that they do want representation. And that's what it feels like when I draw them anyhow.
Mm.
So I don't know.
Do you get a sense that I know in some traditions there's this notion that these beings were more in harmony with us, or we were more in harmony with them in the past, and we've essentially gone astray as a species, and the way that we've treated the earth and nature has kind of coincided with how we've treated them because they're one and the same. Have you received any messages or inklings of that from your end, and like how is it like they want us to go back to how we were, or is this a completely new way?
I think it's a completely new way. It's like a new evolution of both of us together, because I really like cringe when people say like, I wish we could just go back to the old ways, but I'm like, the old ways were like horrible. People were awful to each other and they're no better now.
Mm,
So
yep.
um yeah, there's like this weird nostalgic view that's like not even real. Um and I don't think that's the direction to go. I think it's more like maybe they're more present to people um, in the world now because of just the dire state of things, and they really want something to change for the better for all of us because we're all here together. So I'm not sure what people would have to do to get that to happen, but just acknowledge the earth and all that we have is like a living entity, and like respect it, because so many people don't at all, and it's really tragic. So I think that might be why there's a current resurgence. There's a lot of fairy stuff lately, at least I've noticed
Mm.
it. Maybe I'm just like in those circles, so I'm not sure. But yeah, even like older stories from like UFOs, alien, quote unquote aliens, would come and tell people very similar messages about like take care of the earth, and um, that's also a whole other conversation as well. But and I'm not
I don't think
even.
it is. That's I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, and it wasn't me because that's usually my domain. I see a lot of connections and parallels there. When you're talking about these things, I my mind goes there. My mind goes to all sorts of other extraordinary experiences that people are having. Even I know there's a lot of dogma that is wrapped up in it, but even like the religious supernatural crowd and those types of experiences, from apparitions to mystical experiences, they get bucketed and siloed by their own followers and by people outside of those
Mhm.
followings. But there are a lot of interesting parallels and connections. So
Very, very much so. Yes. And I do like in my book, I do kind of, even though it is like exceptionally like illustration heavy, because that's what I very much enjoyed doing. I do kind of touch on the comparative folklore aspect of it all. Like all these stories are very, very much like the same story with a different facade, and yeah, I sent you a copy of my book, so you'll be able to check it out and see what I mean. I'm really bad at explaining things, honestly.
but that reminded me, a friend of mine whose work I was surprised that you knew is Joshua Cutchin,
Oh, I
who
enjoy his stuff. Yeah, very much
yeah,
so.
and this is, I mean, he's kind of like the follow-up to Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia, and that's kind of where this is all going, in my opinion, and what it's suggesting at comparative nature of reality and these experiences.
Mm,
There's a quote I wanted to pull up from Joshua from Ecology of Souls. He says, "Where the dead appear, so do fairies. Where fairies appear, so do extraterrestrials."
mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
It's true, and it's like that also is like a bridge point. It's like the living and the dead, like that for some reason, like it's, I hate to use this term because it's used so often now, but it's like that very liminal area of death meeting life, and just like the continuation of the all, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
it's almost like death is the culmination of the illusion.
mhm,
It's like it is it's the climax of the illusion, and I think that is kind of the barrier, the final barrier between reality and the in true reality and this.
mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we look at a few of the images you've sent me from your book and we can share them with the
Okay,
audience?
sure.
And if you want to, comment on any of them, describe any of the beings or what you were feeling or going through with that, that would be
Mhm.
great. All right. So let's look at this one.
Okay. This one is about a very particular entity that I experienced after I had eaten a truffle that was infused with fly agaric mushroom. Very, very small amount, but enough that it kind of like helped to, I guess, induce this altered state. And it was extremely meaningful and special feeling. And I do remember that I I had all these different questions. I think I was just wondering like why do I experience these things, and I don't know, kind of being angsty.
Uh,
um, I just had this really profound like download of this queen type figure who lived underground, and she was like part of all of, I guess, the mycelium mushroom colonies all under the ground under our feet. And she was walking me through this very, very dark, cold, earthy tunnel, but it still felt like oddly cozy in a way, like I guess like in a womb or something, which sounds so strange. But I was just asking her all of these questions, and um, basically her response was like, you want to like get past all of those holdups, just grow. And that's all she had to say. And then I just like shot up out of the earth, like literally growing like I was some kind of plant. And I don't know, that just really stuck with me. So yeah, I included her in my book to honor
oh,
her.
that's amazing. And if any of these have names that you would like to share, please do so.
I don't know what her name is. I just knew she was like a queen or a goddess or something. Like a somebody who lived beneath our feet, like within the earth, and was really wise and kind.
Wow,
So
beautiful. All right, let's check this one out.
so this is more of just like the self-portrait that I wanted to include for this just like I guess a statement of how do I go about creating a lot of these drawings.
Mhm.
And basically, without sounding completely insane, sometimes it feels like I do tap into something and am able to like um, channel or experience these beings who do want to be represented in this form. And not all of them do. Sometimes I'll have a feeling where like I don't think this one wants to be like drawn in this way. Like give that to somebody else. Like throw that back into the wind.
Mhm.
But so I'm very respectful on like who I do draw. It's all very based on consent and just respect. So yeah.
Wow. And it says it right there. It says it's almost as though my hand is a sort of medium allowing the fairy energy to move through it. And
Mhm.
that's when I met you and you were describing this process, I was like, you are a channeler. Just to own it. You are channeling this.
It feels like
It's
really weird
beautiful.
because like sometimes I mean I've been among people who scoff at things like that or like do want to say, oh, so you think you're better than me? And I'm like, no, like I didn't even choose this. I really did not even choose it. It's just happening. And I happen to have a bunch of people who contact me saying that they know exactly what I've drawn. So like, you make of that what you will. And I've
Exactly.
never gone out of my way to be like, I'm a psychic medium channel. Like those people exist, but I never really felt like I'm an artist. Like that, I'm confident in saying that.
Yeah.
So I don't
Well,
know.
it's an amazing capacity, and I'm glad it's coming out in your artwork because I love it.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Oh,
Can you
so
talk
this,
about this one?
trying to read it.
The
So this one
spectrum
was
of reality is beautiful and lush.
right. This one was more just like me trying to explain that there is so much more to the world than just like opposite ends of the spectrum. There are these truths, and sometimes people do see things like so black and white, and sometimes those things are necessary, but like in between that, there is a whole world, just a huge realm of other colors and possibilities. Like there's more ways to get 4 than just 2 plus 2. There's so many other ways to go about
Mm.
that.
Yep.
And I don't know, this also kind of touches on like neurodivergency, because I definitely am on that spectrum. I am dyslexic, and I do have ADHD. So I think it's really interesting that there's a lot of people in that community who experience a lot of these things, and it goes unheard, and it's just said like, oh no, you're just crazy. uh, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, thank you for sharing that because it's definitely aligns with a lot of my research and a lot of the work like by Dr. Jeffrey Kripal from Rice University looking at trauma and neurodivergence and how that fits into this. There's a lot of people doing work in that realm, and even the work from coming out of the telepathy tapes. It's this neuroscientist who has been studying autistic children and
Mhm.
these capacities they seem to display, and they're low verbal or nonverbal autistic children and of various ages, and they have very clear telepathic abilities, mostly anecdotal, but they're doing work now to try to get some actual in the lab studies done and empirical data. But I mean, a lot of this stuff is not fit for empirical type studies, which is a whole other conversation and why I think there's a new science that is required by all this. But
Mhm.
it's still fascinating that this is happening, and it is like the most neurodivergent crowd.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I've heard of the show, but I've just not had time to listen to it yet. But all of the people that are in that fairy group that I was mentioning earlier, they are all pretty into it and talk about it, and I feel left out. I'm like, I haven't listened to
Oh,
but
once you get started, you won't be able to stop. So
yeah.
cool. All right, let's look at your next drawing. How about this one?
Oh, that was part of the same page, really, with that the spectrum of reality. I can't read it. I should know my own.
A
I've
word
put
from the fairies, and then at the bottom it says, "Be open, warmly embrace variety. Let each new emotion and possibility envelop you."
yeah. So just like touching again on not being so black and white, and allowing for that spectrum of just nuance and all the things, all the possibilities, just to like be okay with that. And I think fairies are a really good reminder that there's just so much more to the world than is able to be perceived. So that's,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, and especially that first line there, focusing on pure duality is ultimately harmful. I could not agree more. That's a lot of what, in my opinion, this has to do with is non-duality and learning to embrace that.
Hmm. Cool.
Ooh, I like this one.
All right. So this is the very ending page of the book, and it kind of just talks about how, if I can remember what I wrote for my last page. um, Basically, what I call, my book is called One Foot in the Green, and to me the green is that other realm, that place where I met the great all, the place where all of these things dwell. And it's many different realms and layers and things, and it's just not where we are here on earth. It's just all the things around us. That is what I call the green. And I guess it's just a reminder to be okay with being in this world. This is where we are. This is where the people are right now. It's okay to traverse the green. It's okay to just explore it and question it and befriend it. But like there are sometimes some cases where people get so intensely obsessed with it that it's no longer healthy anymore. And it's just a reminder to stay present in your human form. Really, that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say, yes.
Yeah. No, that's right on. That is a lot. Yeah. Integrating these experiences and these realms with this reality is important. Otherwise, in my opinion, that's how certain psychopathologies can happen, is when people may be experiencing very real things, but it's that inability to bring yourself back to this
Right.
reality that we have to live, unfortunately, or
Yeah.
fortunately, but there's a
Just
lot of good things too. And it's, yeah, we have to go through it.
and it's just like learning to like be okay with that. I feel like people are here for some reason, of course, and there's plenty of awful things that you could focus on, like seemingly more awful things than good things, honestly. But I try to stay informed of those things, and I also really try to just practice being just very present and kind to myself, because
Mhm.
if I'm not, then I do think that I can, that's when like the anxiety and depression really do take over. So it's a form of self-care, really, to to live a balanced life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's, I think so many of us have been imbalanced, especially in the West in modern times. All right. So we mentioned UFOs earlier and
mhm.
non-human intelligence, like that, the alien realms. And I think we both agree that these are somehow connected.
It would
Have
seem,
you had, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I just said it would seem like there's something going on there. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you yourself had any experiences that you would maybe bucket more on that side of things?
Yeah, so I have actually seen what would be considered a UFO. Um, it wasn't that exciting or anything, but it was very interesting. It was very, I think it was springtime, so and it was dark outside, and I saw this pinkish orange light that was pretty big and moving like straight line, like a satellite would be moving, and then it just stopped and held itself in place and blinked out. And then it reappeared right above where it was, and it did the same satellite moving just in a perfect straight line. And it did that a couple more times where it would move in a straight line, blink out, and then reappear somewhere else in the sky. Like maybe the third time it was down further, and then it would just move in a straight line, stop, and disappear. And then I think it was the fourth or fifth time it reappeared a little bit higher up. And I could tell it was the same thing throughout. At least I thought it was. And it just stayed stationary for a second. And then it's like it sprung. It like was a spiral, and it just like shot up into the sky like a fly that, you know how like when a fly buzzes all
Yeah.
chaotically? That's what it looked like. And it just shot into nothingness. And
Wow.
that's really it.
Wow. That's amazing. I think and you were trying to underplay it earlier, but that's amazing. Wow, was that just you, or was there anyone around?
No, it was just me. I was the only person who saw that. Um, yeah.
Were you Was there anything going on around that time in your life, or did you feel any changes afterwards?
Really, it was so j just not alarming and just kind of, like, organic, and this sounds so weird, but it didn't really seem to have any kind of effect on my life afterwards, and the only thing, well, because I always, like, kind of knew, like, "Oh,
Mhm.
like, that's out there. It
Yeah,
doesn't faze me that much." So there's, like, me coming
already
from the,
been cracked open.
yeah, but, that night, what had been happening, I guess it was just, well, now that, okay, now I'm thinking about what was happening that night. I saw this over, it's like a recording studio, which is like a small barn on my father-in-law's property. And everybody, like, everybody in his family is very musical. So a lot of the people were in there and they were just recording stuff and playing music together. And I had gone up to the house, used the bathroom, and then I was on my way back down. And that's when I saw it. I just saw this bright pink light right over it. And so I was mesmerized and I watched it. And that's when I saw it do all that strange maneuvering. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because now that I think back on it, I think music and sound always seems to be a factor in a lot of these things, and just like joyousness, and because I know everybody was just like having fun and the whole family was down there and
Mm.
doing music and stuff. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it. So I really don't know, but
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's a point that doesn't get talked about too much. But it is, I mean, sound and music are both parts of my contact protocol because I saw connections with all this and what
mhm,
various ancient traditions around the world have
mhm,
used to access these states of consciousness often involve
yeah,
sound and music.
for sure. Yeah. And that's also, it's a very common theme in like traditional fairy lore. So just like a thrumming, humming sound and just like music that you can't really place in the distance. I've had a few experiences myself where I have heard like bells and chimes and things that were not around me at all.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
just like very subtle kind of things that like, so yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like there's like sound plays a part in a lot of these kind of experiences
Yeah.
in one form or another, coming from us or coming from them in some way.
Yeah.
So
Do you in when you are accessing these these beings or when they are accessing you, do you have any practices or rituals from sound or anything else that you go through that help get you into that state?
so as of now, I actually don't, but I do think that I need to work on trying to figure out something that would be suitable for me. I'm not very good at meditation. My brain just cannot stop. So I think that like having music or sound introduced would help that a lot.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
So I've just personally not tried it, and I'm very interested in trying something like that once I figure out, or I don't know. But yeah, as of now, I don't really have like any particular method that I use.
Yeah. Well, whatever you're doing seems to be working amazingly.
Sometimes it's strange. I think sometimes just by me being like surrounded by art stuff all the time, like that is such a huge part of my life that a lot of this stuff seems to appreciate and enjoy creativity.
Mhm.
So be that music or dancing or just some kind of expression of your soul in a way.
Yeah,
So
that's
mhm.
beautiful, yeah. Well, if you're ever interested, I'm happy to share my, I because I had a hard time getting into meditation as well. So I found certain breathwork techniques. I don't know if you've tried breathwork. Certain breathwork techniques can help get you in that state, and certainly I have to have some sort of music
Mhm,
overlaid on top of any guided meditation,
mhm,
and that has even included things like binaural frequencies, because that has an even more kind of direct impact on getting your brain or mind in a state where it's more
Yeah,
conducive. So yeah, I throw everything in, in my protocol.
very cool. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. It's something that I do want to explore more for sure, and possibly even like bring some of my friends in. Like I said earlier, I do have a few friends who are local who are very very into this kind of stuff. So it'd be really interesting to see what works for them as
Yeah.
well. And I don't know, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Speaking of music, is there any like are you into these cultures and their music from Celtic to Irish to anything like that? Or is it just the information and the stories and the beings that have called out to you?
I do oddly like kind of traditional harp and like I guess like Celtic and Gaelic music. That was kind of the soundtrack to my book as I did a lot of the illustrations. So
Mm,
I'm not normally into things like that, but it does seem to like whenever I hear it, it kind of like sparks something in me, which is like a very comforting feeling.
mhm.
So um, yeah, I did listen to a lot of that while I was creating the illustrations for my book, but I haven't really listened to a lot of that lately. I mostly listen to, well, it doesn't matter what I listen
No,
to.
I'd like to hear it. Yeah, what do you listen to?
um, I really, really love Bob Dylan and Richard Hell and the Voidoids, like
Nice.
a bunch of different kind of like sad poetic boys.
No, that's great. For me, music has a very important transcendental quality to it. I feel this pull towards folk, like Northern European style folk music, and it gets really nerdy. I mean, it's all the way from Nordic folk, which is like Viking type music,
Mhm,
all the way to like Gaelic and Celtic and things like that.
mhm,
Something about the sound, not just the instruments, but something about the frequency or
mhm.
I don't know what it is, but it has this transcendental effect on me.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
yeah, I mean that it's kind of what inspired me to use in my own protocol, like a specific type of shamanic drumming track on that's just repeating, but it has some of these similar vocalizations as I find in certain folk music as well.
Mhm,
Yeah, so I mean, anyone who struggles to enter these states and wants to try to amplify their connection with that realm, and I think amplify their disconnection with some of the elusive realm here, and what
mhm.
kind of keeps us is try to find music that calls out to you and it gives you that feeling, because I think there's something there, and it's this sense of remembering that can come with it, and I think it's tapping into that.
Yeah, it's like you said, it does feel like you're remembering something. Um, yeah, I don't know what that all means, but you can feel it, and it just like itches that part of your brain that needs to be like touched or something. And it's very satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I mean, it's one of our major senses, and just like your artwork can have that same effect on people visually, I think it's the same thing happening there. Yeah, I think we just get stuck in a few senses, and it becomes routine throughout our day in this life, and we kind of lose touch of a more unified sensory experience. But yeah, I know you mentioned that you feel like there's been an uptick in these experiences in your community. I feel like there has been as well in more of the UFO side of things as well, not just with the public facing disclosure movement side of it, but even with the nature of experiences. There was a heavy focus in certain abduction type experiences in the 90s and 2000s that had more of like a, I guess you would say it, on the surface, a darker feel to them that involved potential like hybridization type experiences and programs. But even with a lot of those people, like in Dr. John Mack's work, it was shown that once they integrated their experiences, a majority of them came away for the like better as a result of it, and with an expanded consciousness, with a understanding that's more non-dual, and this feeling like they've tapped into something that expands them. And then since then, even nowadays, like there are still maybe more psychical abductions, but even physical ones. But even that, like there's still an overwhelming majority of experiences in with non-human intelligence and UFOs that have this positive element to them, generally speaking, that suggests that this has something to do with our awakening to
Mhm.
a greater reality. And it does feel like it's picking up in addition to the disclosure movement. So long,
Yeah.
long, long question, but do you see that as well in Fae experiences? And do you think that has what do you think that says about the times that we're living in and where we could be going?
So I do think that, so I'm not sure if it's actually an uptick or if we are just exposed to more like stories because we can talk to each other like this and just like that. And because communication has become so much like more abundant and easy, so maybe more people are just talking to each other. But
Do you think that even that alone opens up
that
new
alone,
experiences, just the awareness and exposure?
yeah, because in a sense, like bringing it back to like what I said earlier about like it being kind of all about community, like that's what's happening. It's like just these communities of people are talking and experiencing each other, and it's a really positive thing. I don't know, maybe there are more things happening because there's more people in the world. That would make sense. But I don't know. I just see more of it now that I'm an adult and more weird things too. More things that you would maybe not have heard about at all, like when I was a kid, because it was more like 3D tangible experiences that I'm
Mm.
used to hearing, like stories about from like unsolved mysteries or something. But
Yeah,
now you do hear a lot more of the psychical kind of experiences,
yeah,
uh, out of body kind of experiences. So
yeah. By the
yeah.
way, the whirring, I think you said whirring or humming sound that tends to accompany a lot of Fey
Mhm.
type experiences, that is actually a common side effect or element in near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, and and abduction experiences, and it's one of the common threads is that sound.
That I am not surprised at
Yeah,
all.
humming or buzzing. Yeah.
That's
Um,
incredible.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it is. I wanted to tell the audience that I do have some of your artwork here behind me. I could not refrain or hold back from buying these at the festival. So I will show some of these at the end after we finish up here, and if there's any more you want me to showcase, I'm happy to do that.
I don't mind at all.
Cool. Are there any closing thoughts that you had, or any messages you had from your friends?
I'm just glad that you invited me to chat about all of these things. I think it's been beneficial for me personally to be able to express this stuff verbally because it is so often that I don't do that. And it just feels like good to be able to do that with somebody who's going to listen and have a really nice conversation back with me. So thank you for
Oh,
doing that.
thank you. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I'm glad that a lot of my audience probably has not been exposed to some of these topics. So it's great to hear that, because I mean, our name is Obliterate the Construct, because I believe that we've been walled off from other communities that are having similar experiences, and there's a huge benefit to having these conversations. It does open up a lot of possibilities.
Mhm.
One more thing, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm mostly on Instagram, probably. Just my name, Brett Manning, BrettManning, and then the word art. So Brett Manning art. And then there's links and stuff there, and you can find different places where I'm at. So a good
Great.
starting point is just Brett Manning Art on Instagram.
Great. And you said your book is it currently up for
Currently,
sale again or not yet?
not yet. That was a surprise to me. Like it sold out, and I was contacted by a publisher who wants to do a second printing because I mean, I would never have been able to. It was really expensive. I self-published the first one. So just the fact that somebody wants to like legitimately publish it for me is really awesome. So
Yeah.
that'll be out soon, probably by the end of this year or the beginning of 2026.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for coming on, Brett. Apologies for any technical issues. I know the image was a little off earlier, but it looks fine now. Hopefully, most of it was good. Yeah, it was great having you. Stay in touch.
awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
Take care.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. And please continue to support us by liking, subscribing, and following us where you get your podcasts and on social media by checking out our Patreon, by sharing this and other episodes we have on your socials, within your networks, and just helping us get the word out. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you.